God's chosen ones. You're the curse breaker of your bloodline. There comes a moment in life when everything starts to feel different. Not just difficult, not just chaotic, but different. As if the weight you're carrying isn't entirely yours. As if the battles you're fighting didn't start with you. As if the pain, the patterns, the unspoken traumas, they were already there, long before you took your first breath. And deep down, somewhere within your soul, you sense a truth no one told you, but that you've always known. You were born into a war you didn't start, but you were chosen to finish. Look closely. Look at the pain that has passed from one generation to another in your family. The silent suffering. The shame that was never named. The broken dreams that no one dared to chase again. Maybe it's the father who abandoned his children, and now you're terrified of becoming like him. Maybe it's the mother who stayed in a toxic marriage and taught her daughters to suffer in silence. Maybe it's the unspoken addiction, the unhealed wound, the cycles of poverty, abuse, or emotional neglect that repeat like a cursed inheritance, passed down, not in gold or silver, but in wounds and fears. You didn't ask for this burden. You didn't sign up for it. But here you are, the one who sees it, the one who feels it, the one who refuses to look away. And that, right there, is where the transformation begins. Because the moment you recognize the pattern is the moment you become something greater than the pattern itself. You are not the black sheep of the family. You are the awakened one. You are not cursed. You are called. You are not weak because you're breaking down. You're strong because you're breaking through. You were marked since birth, not as a victim, but as a vessel for healing, for freedom, for generational change. The pain you carry is not proof that you're doomed. It's evidence that you're the one chosen to break what others ran from, to stand where others collapsed, to speak what others buried. You are the beginning of something new and the end of something ancient. This is not just about you. This is about your bloodline, about every ancestor who wished for someone like you, about every unborn child who will live freer because of the choices you make now. You are the answer to prayers no one dared to pray out loud. You are the curse breaker, the chain breaker, the light in the lineage of darkness. And so tonight, I'm not here to tell you what you already know. I'm here to remind you of who you are. You've been walking with your head down, thinking you're lost. But what if you've been sent into your family, your history, your pain, not to suffer, but to redeem? What if you are God's chosen one? And this is your calling. Let's begin. The weight of a bloodline. Recognizing the generational curse. Have you ever looked around at your family, your parents, your siblings, your cousins, and wondered, why am I the only one who sees it? Why am I the only one who can't pretend everything is fine? The only one who questions the way things have always been done? Why does the silence in this house feel louder to me than to anyone else? Why does the pain sit heavier on my chest, even when no one else is talking about it? You see, when you are the one chosen to break the curse, you will be the first to notice it exists. It starts subtly. You feel it in the pit of your stomach when certain topics are mentioned. You hear it in the tone of voices that shift when the past is brought up. You notice how quickly love turns into control, how joy is always followed by guilt, how every success is quickly shadowed by fear. And though everyone smiles for the family photo, deep down, you know, there's something broken here. Something old. Something passed down. What you're sensing is real. Generational curses are not fairy tales. They're not mystical folklore. They are real patterns of pain, deeply rooted, often invisible, woven into the very fabric of families. They are behaviors, beliefs, emotional wounds, cycles of dysfunction that move silently from one generation to the next. They are the anger that erupts without warning, the fear that never fully goes away, the trauma that is never named but always felt. Sometimes they come in the form of addiction. Sometimes it's abandonment. Sometimes it's poverty. Sometimes it's rage. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's a deep, aching shame that no one can explain. But it's there, living in the way we speak, in the way we avoid, in the way we survive. And most families don't even know they're carrying it. Because when dysfunction is normalized, it becomes invisible. When brokenness is all you've ever known, it doesn't feel like a curse, it feels like life. But then someone is born who feels too much, who thinks too deeply, who refuses to play along. Someone who questions, who challenges, who says, "Why do we always do this?" Or, "Why do we never talk about that?" That someone is you. You are the one who doesn't numb out. You are the one who doesn't forget. You are the one who doesn't settle for silence. That's not a coincidence. It's a calling. Because the curse can only be broken by the one who is brave enough to see it. And that's where your burden begins. You're not just carrying your own pain. You're carrying generations of unresolved grief, bottled up anger, untold stories, and unfinished healing. You were born into the fire not to be burned, but to refine what was always too fragile to face the flames. But let me be honest with you, it's not easy. You will be misunderstood. You will be resisted. You will be accused of dishonoring the family just because you're trying to heal it. You'll hear things like, "That's just how your father was," or "Don't bring that up. It's in the past." They'll call you dramatic, sensitive, rebellious, when in truth, you're courageous. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to confront what everyone else has chosen to avoid. And when you do that, when you begin to name what was once nameless, to bring light to what has been hidden, you begin to break the power of the curse. You see, a generational curse only continues when no one speaks, when no one dares to call it what it is, when no one takes a stand. But the moment someone says, "No more," the chain begins to break. The moment someone decides that this pattern ends here, that healing begins now, the entire bloodline starts to shift. And here's what's beautiful. It doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. It doesn't require that you never fall. It requires that you rise with intention. It requires that you look honestly at what's been handed to you and choose to hand something better to those who come after you. You were not chosen because you had it easy. You were chosen because you survived what should have destroyed you. You were chosen because you refused to become numb. Because you were willing to hurt if it meant healing. Because somewhere deep inside, you knew that just because something has always been that way doesn't mean it should stay that way. The pain you feel isn't punishment. It's inheritance. But it doesn't have to be your future. Your bloodline may be soaked in battles, but that doesn't mean it can't give birth to peace. You may come from generations of brokenness, but you can become the first to be whole. And yes, it's heavy. The weight of a bloodline is not something small. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting. There are days you'll want to give up. Days you'll wish you were blind like the rest. Days you'll wonder if it's worth it. But let me tell you something. It is. It always is. Because you're not just healing yourself. You're healing your mother without her saying a word. You're healing your grandfather even though he's gone. You're healing the children you haven't yet met. You are changing the story. One act of courage in this generation can echo into 1,000 more. One moment of honesty can set captives free. One person, one soul, who chooses light over darkness can shatter centuries of silence. So if you've ever wondered why life has been so hard for you, why it feels like the weight never lifts, why you've always felt like you were fighting something invisible, now you know. It's because you are. But you're not fighting alone. You were never meant to. You were chosen by something greater than your pain, entrusted with something more sacred than your suffering. You are not the curse. You are the one sent to end it. You were marked since birth, the burden and the calling. There are things about you that never made sense, not to others, not even to yourself. From a young age, you felt set apart, even when you tried to fit in. You carried emotions that were too deep for your age, questions too heavy for your years, and instincts no one around you seemed to understand. While other children played freely, you observed. You listened. You felt. You weren't just reacting to the world. You were absorbing it. That's because you weren't just another person in the crowd. You were marked. Chosen. Not by accident, not by luck, but by divine design. And when God chooses someone, it rarely comes with a grand announcement. There's no thunder in the sky or glowing sign above your head. No. Often, it comes quietly, secretly, in the form of a burden, in the form of pain, in the form of things that others never seem to go through, but you face again and again. Rejection, abandonment, heartbreak, isolation. The very things that nearly destroyed you were, in fact, shaping you, preparing you, marking you. Because the chosen are not made on the mountaintops. They are forged in the valleys, in the silence, in the fire. When you wonder why everyone else seems to have it easier, why you're always the one called to rise when others fall, it's because your calling demands more. And yes, it's a burden, but it's a sacred one. The burden of being chosen is that your life will never look like theirs. You will not be allowed to settle where others stop. You will not be permitted to hide when the truth needs a voice. You will be pulled into storms that teach you how to stand. You will be stripped of illusions so you can carry light. And the people around you, even the ones you love, won't always understand. Sometimes they'll mock you. Sometimes they'll leave. Sometimes they'll resist your growth because it exposes their stagnation. And you'll wonder, why am I being punished for doing the right thing? But listen to me. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Being chosen doesn't mean being favored with comfort. It means being entrusted with responsibility. The responsibility to be the first to say no, the first to walk away, the first to speak truth in a family that's been silent, the first to heal instead of pass the pain forward, the first to break a generational agreement that was never yours to accept. You weren't marked to be popular. You were marked to be powerful. But that power comes at a cost. The cost of comfort, the cost of ease, the cost of being understood. But what you gain in return is purpose, and that purpose will save more lives than you can imagine, starting with your own. Because when you're marked, you become a mirror. People will see in you what they are not ready to face in themselves. Your growth will threaten their complacency. Your healing will challenge their avoidance. Your clarity will confront their confusion. And sometimes, they will lash out, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you remind them of the greatness they gave up on. But you must not dim your light to make others feel safe in their shadows. You must not lower your voice just to keep the peace. Peace built on silence is not peace, it's bondage. And you were not chosen to be bound. You were chosen to be free and to set others free. You see, being marked doesn't just mean you're different. It means you're destined. Destined to break what others refuse to confront. Destined to love in a way that heals instead of harms. Destined to build what your parents only dreamed of. Destined to walk paths no one prepared you for, because you are here to prepare them for those who will follow. And yes, the road is lonely. Yes, there are days you'll ask, why me? But perhaps the better question is, why not you? Why not the one who sees? Why not the one who refuses to repeat the pain? Why not the one strong enough to bear the fire and still rise with grace? God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He takes the broken and makes them leaders. He takes the rejected and makes them vessels. He takes the silent ones and fills them with words that shake nations. He takes the wounded and makes them warriors. So if your life has been marked by struggle, know this: you are not cursed. You are chosen. Chosen to lead, to heal, to carry the light into places that have known nothing but darkness. Chosen to rise when others fall. Chosen to stand even when your legs shake. Chosen to believe even when hope seems impossible. Chosen to love even when you've been unloved. The enemy knows who you are, even when you forget. That's why the attacks on your life have been so strategic. That's why the pressure has been so constant. Because the enemy fears what you might become if you ever realize the truth, that you are marked, that you are called, that you are dangerous to darkness. So do not shrink. Do not apologize for your sensitivity, your vision, your fire. Do not explain away your insight, your tears, your depth. These are not weaknesses, they are signs. They are the fingerprints of a calling far bigger than your fear. You are not here by chance. You are not ordinary. You are the beginning of a new story in your bloodline. The fulfillment of generations who cried for change. The answer to pain that had no voice. You are the one. You were marked since birth. You carry a burden, but also a blessing. A calling, but also a crown. And every step you take in truth, in love, in healing, you fulfill the reason you were chosen. This is your time. This is your season. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. The burden is real, but so is the calling. Breaking the pattern, becoming the curse breaker. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the pain is no longer just pain. It becomes a message, a mission, a mirror. You begin to realize that the very thing meant to break you is actually pushing you toward purpose. And with that realization comes the power to decide, to end what was, and begin what could be. That's what it means to be a curse breaker. Let's be clear, breaking the pattern does not happen overnight. It does not happen in a single prayer or one moment of awareness. No, it's a battle, a daily war against the old voices, the inherited beliefs, the default reactions that live inside you, even when you try to run from them. You don't just fight what's around you. You fight what's in you. But here's the miracle: you can win. You are winning. Because the moment you become aware of the cycle, the chain begins to loosen. The moment you say, "This ends with me," something in the spiritual realm shifts. The powers that thrived in silence begin to tremble. The darkness that hid behind tradition and trauma starts to flee. Because now you see it. And what has been seen can be challenged. What is challenged can be changed. To break a generational curse is to interrupt a pattern that's been uninterrupted for decades, maybe even centuries. You become the first to speak what was always silenced. The first to forgive what was never apologized for. The first to name the pain, the shame, the secret, and choose healing over hiding. And in doing so, you do what your ancestors prayed for but couldn't reach. You carry their hopes in your hands. It might feel unfair. Why me? Why now? Why this family? But let me tell you something. If the curse found its way to you, it's because you have the strength to stop it. It's not a punishment. It's an assignment. And God doesn't give assignments without supplying the grace to carry them. But that grace won't always feel graceful. It will take you through grief, through letting go, through long nights of questioning your own worth, your sanity, your decisions. Because healing isn't clean. It's messy. Sometimes healing means distancing yourself from the very people who taught you to hate yourself. Sometimes it means saying no, setting boundaries, breaking traditions that suffocate your spirit. Sometimes it means choosing to leave the table where love was always served with conditions. And you will be called selfish, ungrateful, dramatic. You will be told to let it go, when what they really mean is stay silent. But do not let their denial distract you from your destiny. You were not born to carry forward what hurt you. You were born to carry forward the light, the truth, the love that was buried under generations of survival. To become a curse breaker is to become a new blueprint, a new language, a new legacy. And it starts small, in the way you speak to your children, in the way you forgive yourself, in the way you stop apologizing for needing space, in the way you stop minimizing your voice to make others comfortable. Some of the most powerful generational shifts don't look loud or dramatic. Sometimes they look like resting instead of overworking, choosing a partner who respects you, saying no without guilt, going to therapy, holding your child and telling them, I love you, not because you have to, but because you never heard it enough growing up. That's how curses break, in quiet, holy revolutions of the heart. And yes, you may not receive the applause. You may not get the closure. You may never hear, I'm proud of you from the people you long to please. But you weren't called to be approved. You were called to be free, to make way for the kind of life that wasn't possible before you, to be the reason your bloodline starts to breathe again. Let me remind you, breaking the pattern doesn't mean you hate your family. It means you love them enough to tell the truth. It means you honor them enough to refuse to let their pain define your children's future. It means you love yourself enough to refuse to die in the same emotional prisons your parents and grandparents lived in. You don't break a curse by fighting your family. You break it by refusing to pass it down. It's not rebellion. It's redemption. And as you walk this road, know that you are not alone. Every step you take toward healing sends ripples through the timeline. There are ancestors watching, whispering, yes, this is the one. There are future children, not even born yet, who will never know the battles you fought, but they will live in the peace you created. They will inherit the strength of your choice, the love of your courage. This is legacy work. You are rewriting the story, and even when it feels like no one notices, heaven is keeping record. Every tear you shed, every truth you speak, every cycle you interrupt, every act of forgiveness, every boundary you hold. It's not just changing your life, it's changing your lineage. You're not just the curse breaker. You are the architect of a blessing that will outlive you. So don't look back. Don't shrink. Don't doubt the power of your steps. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not too weak. You were born for this. You were built for this. Every scar, every shadow, every moment of isolation, it all prepared you to do what no one else could. You are the first light in a long line of darkness. And when you shine, you give permission to others to do the same. So rise, curse breaker. Rise, chosen one. Rise, and keep walking. Not because it's easy, not because it's fair, but because the future depends on it. And you are the one who makes it possible. Rise and lead, becoming the ancestor your bloodline needed. There will come a day when someone in your bloodline will speak your name, not in grief, but in gratitude. They'll never meet you. They may never know the details of your struggle, your heartbreaks, your lonely nights. But they will live in the freedom you made possible. They will walk roads you had to crawl through. They will feel peace in places where you once battled demons. And though they may never understand what you carried, they will benefit from every burden you refuse to pass down. This is what it means to rise, to lead, to become the ancestor your bloodline has always needed. You see, most people live and die within the conditions they were born into. They inherit fear, pain, silence, scarcity, and they adapt. They survive. They repeat. But not you. You said no. You said enough. And in doing so, you did something divine. You shifted history. You don't have to be old to be an ancestor. You don't have to be dead to leave a legacy. The moment you decide to walk a new path, with courage, with intention, with love, you become the bridge between what was and what will be. And bridges, my friend, are not always comfortable places to stand. You're connected to where you came from, yet called to where no one has gone. That tension, that stretch, that's the space where legacy is born. To lead a bloodline out of bondage is not for the faint of heart. It means forgiving those who never said sorry. It means letting go of those who refuse to grow. It means grieving the love you didn't get and learning how to give it anyway. It means creating new rituals, new values, new truths that honor your soul, even when they disrupt the status quo. And yes, it gets heavy. Leadership always does. But don't confuse heaviness with wrongness. You were never meant to carry a light load. You were meant to carry a holy one. You were anointed not to be comfortable, but to be consequential. To be the one who walks through the fire and comes out with your family's healing in your hands. You will cry. You will lose people. You will be misunderstood. But let me tell you, the tears are sacred. The losses are redirections. And the misunderstandings are proof that you're going where others have never dared to go. Keep going anyway. Because on the other side of your obedience is a garden you've never seen. One watered by your sweat, your surrender, your transformation. And one day, long from now, a child will sit beneath a tree of safety, of wholeness, of joy. And that tree will exist because you planted the seed. You're not just breaking curses. You're building blessings. You're not just rejecting the old. You're constructing the new. You're not just ending pain. You're beginning peace. But to lead, you must rise. Not perfectly, not without fear, but with consistency, with conviction, with vision. Because what your bloodline needs is not a flawless savior. It needs a faithful one. Someone who won't quit. Someone who won't conform. Someone who dares to imagine something better. And when you rise, don't rise in bitterness. Rise in wisdom. Don't rise in rage. Rise in authority. Don't rise just to prove them wrong. Rise to prove God right. He chose you. He prepared you. He is with you. They may have doubted you, but he never did. They may have overlooked you, but heaven has had its eye on you since the beginning. You are not here by chance. You were not born into your family by mistake. You were not sent into your generation without a purpose. Everything about your journey, even the pain, has been part of the plan. You are the answer to a question your ancestors never had the language to ask. You are the healing they didn't believe was possible. You are the manifestation of the courage they couldn't hold. You are not just from your bloodline. You are its rebirth. And I want you to understand this. Being the curse breaker doesn't mean you're better than your family. It means you're responsible for building what they couldn't. And that responsibility is sacred. It is generational. It is heavy, but it is holy. You are standing in the gap, lifting generations on your shoulders, carrying the weight of choices that weren't yours, yet rewriting the outcome anyway. You are becoming the kind of ancestor who teaches the future how to live, not in survival, but in abundance. Not in fear, but in faith. Not in silence, but in truth. So rise. Speak when silence is expected. Heal when pain is inherited. Choose joy when sadness was normalized. Set boundaries where chaos used to reign. Love boldly, deeply, freely, even when you weren't taught how. You are the leader your lineage has longed for. You are the voice that breaks the silence, the fire that purifies, the builder of something brand new. And when your time on this earth is done, your impact will remain. Not just in what you said, not just in what you did, but in who you became. A turning point, a redeemer, a holy interruption in the family story. You will be remembered, not just as someone who lived, but as someone who transformed, someone who led, someone who loved in a way that outlived their name. That is your legacy. So walk with your head held high, not with pride, but with purpose. Not because you've arrived, but because you are becoming. Becoming the ancestor your bloodline needed. Becoming the one who looked back and chose to move forward. You are God's chosen one. The curse ends with you, and the blessing begins through you.